my name is Lena Busker. I am coming to you from my home office. I am an international tax manager at Plant Moran. I have been with Plant Moran a little over 6 years, spending most of my time in their international tax group. Plant Moran is an accounting firm that specializes in audit and tax, but we also have consulting services that range from valuations to supply chain help, all kinds of things that our clients could need help with. We typically have a team that can help them out. I am here today. Thank you to your teachers to allow us to have this time to talk to you. And I'm here to talk to you about foreign currencies. So when you are buying something in the US, you use the US dollar. Some of you might not always be using dollars. You might have, you might be using your phone or credit cards or debit cards, but you're using US dollars when you make transactions online or in person. So US dollar has a value that's set in the United States, and we have currency that goes along with it. Every country has their own currency and their value that goes along with that as well. So, for example, in Canada, they use the Canadian dollar. In Mexico, they use the peso. And it really, there's a lot of different currencies throughout the world. Some have values very, very different to the US dollar, and some are extremely close to the US dollar. So I look at currencies both in my work when I am doing a tax return for a foreign company that operates in another country, and personally when I'm traveling. So a couple things about each of those. So when I'm doing work, what I want, my goal is to understand what the value of the US dollar amounts for the activity of these companies. So if you're filing a US tax return, you're going to need to report everything in US dollars. So because the US dollar is our local currency, that's how you fill out a tax return. It needs to be in US dollars. So we have to translate those amounts. So we use different platforms online that tell us if we had this much money in US dollars, it's equal to this much in whatever functional currency we're looking at. So we're constantly making adjustments to determine what the difference is in those values. So the euro is a good example. I have a lot of companies that operate in the European Union, which uses the euro. So $1 US is 85 cents in euro today. That's about where it's at. So if I have a company that made, let's say, $100 in Europe, how much would that be in the US? So let me see. I'm just going to check online because that's how we do it. So that would only be $117 in the US. So 100 euros equals $117 in the US. That's fairly close as far as currencies go. We'll get some that are much different. So a peso is, you normally need 19 pesos to get to 1 USD right now. So part of when I'm looking at something, I'll first think, should this amount go up or down? Is the value in this foreign country higher or lower than the United States? I'll be honest, I still have to Google that on a lot of these countries. There are some where I'm more familiar because I use them more often, but they change a lot. So we're constantly saying, okay, should this amount in functional currency? So functional currency is the local jurisdiction, which is normally a foreign currency in my situation when I'm working. Should that be higher or lower than the USD? And that's kind of where we spot check to understand to make sure we're headed in the right direction. This is also important when we're advising our clients if they want to make decisions on their business. It's important to understand the value of their dollar. So in some situations, like say the Mexican peso, that number is going to be extremely high. So when you first see it, you're like, oh my goodness, that's a lot of money, but the value could be so different. And so you could say, oh, that actually won't impact your US value as much as it would impact your peso value, because pesos, again, you need 19 pesos to get to 1 US dollar. So the other times I use foreign currencies is when I travel. I actually have a euro right here. They look different than a US dollar. They're smaller, they're brighter, and they come in a lot of colors. So when I'm traveling, what does a functional currency or foreign currency look like? It's important for me to understand the value so that I know if I'm shopping, is this t-shirt going to cost me the value of 10 US dollars or 45 US dollars? That could make a difference in my decision. And it's also important to make sure I have the right currency when I get to where I'm going. So how do you get euros? So there's a couple ways you can go about it. You can talk to your bank before you leave on your trip, and you can get as much currency as you're looking for at whatever rate it is during that time. There's typically fees and things like that associated with it. So you can also just fly to your country and go to an ATM when you get there. And that is a little nerve-wracking. I know a few of my first international travels, that made me a little nervous. I know when we went to Thailand, and the Thai baht is one that's a little more extreme. So $1 US is 32 Thai baht. So you end up needing a lot more physical currency than you're used to because the value is different. And so we got to our airport and just used an ATM when we got to the airport because Thai baht wasn't something that was as easy to get from our bank, and we knew we'd want to get whatever the rate was the day we traveled. So a lot of credit cards you can just use your credit card, and sometimes even it will ask you if you'd like to make your transaction in USD or the currency that you're in. It's typically best to make it in the currency that you're in, and then your bank will translate it to USD as it processes it. So because we live in such a global community, this is becoming more and more popular. So a lot of our credit cards just work in foreign countries, and you can just go to an ATM in Thailand when you get off a plane and get Thai baht in exchange for US dollars. So as the world becomes more global, as you travel, as you go out and see the world, I hope you really get to experience different currencies, and I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea about how they work